Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to your United Draft Glory franchise mode here in NHL 26. So as you can tell, this episode is coming out a little bit late. The day of I'm recording this is the day that this episode actually goes up, and I am still getting over my cold a bit. My voice does sound a lot better, I think, but obviously I'm still under the weather, which is absolutely ridiculous because this has been over a week pretty much of dealing with this, but anyways, if you didn't catch the last episode, we had our very first playoff meeting with the Montreal Canadiens. It didn't go to plan early on, but I do think we started to figure ourselves out a little bit later into that series. So it was not a bad result from our team, but you can see we got shut out in the first two games, then lost a game in overtime. So that game, obviously, if we would have found a way to win that, maybe we could have found a way to win the series. We then end up winning the next game 5-4, 4-3 in the next one, and in losing another overtime game. So I think we could have honestly won those last four games if we would have just found obviously a way to get those overtime winners. But I think our team had some pretty good results against a very good Habs team who's obviously won multiple cups. So I'm hoping that obviously this upcoming season we could kind of build upon that. And hopefully some guys get some really good development in the offseason, and hopefully we continue to find some more good pieces to the team, because obviously there's a chance we might lose some players in free agency as we get through these next few years as well. So hopefully we can kind of maintain this roster as much as possible while adding some fresh faces into the lineup, just to make sure we actually have deep runs for multiple years at a time. So anyways, with that said, let's get in your guys' comments, see what you guys have to say about last episode, and then we'll get into the 2035 draft and entire offseason. So the first and only comment is from I'm the Quiet One, who says, I say get the low lead defenseman as your first rounder and the other low lead for that forward spot, since he plays the same as the top six. And yeah, we're going to definitely draft a couple low leads in this year's draft. This draft actually has some that we can pick up, which is great to see. I'm not really too sure what we're going to grab in every single round, but since this is the draft that we have obviously our worst pick possible, because we obviously made the playoffs, we're not going to be really probably getting as much as we have in prior years, but we are going to be going likely with the lowly in the first round as that defenseman. As you can see, where is he? Where was he again? I think he was early second round. Oh yeah, Richardson. Yeah, here he is. Yeah, right defenseman. He is a low elite two-way defenseman. It's kind of a perfect player just because obviously I don't really know still if Dave Antonio is going to be the type of player that comes back to this franchise once his contract ends. So getting a good replacement on that right-hand side might be important. So I think Kurt Richardson's definitely a guy worth taking in the first round. And then the other low lead he was mentioning is actually supposed to go really late in the draft, I think it was, if I remember right. There is some gems that we might be looking at as some of our other selections in this draft class, but I think the low lead was projected like 7th round, if I remember right. I guess I could actually sort by pinned if I really wanted to, so that way I'm not scrolling for ages. Oh yeah, here he is. No, he's not him. Where was he? Oh, there he is right here. Yeah, Kuda. Milan Kuda, he's a big boy, 6'4", 208. He is looking like a two-way forward, but he could be a power forward based on that size. But you can see low elite, he plays left wing and right wing, which is very useful. So he's going to be definitely one of those guys that we probably take in round 6. And then, yeah, for rounds 2, 3, 4, 5, and 7, I honestly have no idea what I'm going to select. But obviously, I'm hoping that we could still continue to build up some more depth on the defensive side for the prospects and maybe get some good forward ones as well at the same time. Because I don't think we really need more goalie prospects at this point. But obviously, if there is a goalie that has good potential and there's not really much else, maybe we'll just take it just to add more prospects to our pool for our team. So anyways, with that said, let's get into this year's draft and see what we can snag up. And hopefully it's a good draft, like I said, for us, because we are drafting a lot later than we are technically used to. So it is, I think, 17th. So it is still kind of early, but it's because we just barely made it into the playoffs this season. So hopefully some of these players will play good. And I think a lot of these guys, if they're good, like the low leads, for instance, the low lead defenseman, he'll probably play in the AHL next year. The low lead forward, maybe we'll leave unsigned for a year when we draft him, but I definitely think a lot of our guys should probably throw into the AHL as soon as possible, so that way they're getting as much as growth as possible, and then they can make the NHL. So anyways, let's take a look at what this year's top 5 is. So Columbus, Detroit, Philly, Boston, and Tampa. Obviously, like I said, we don't select for quite a while because we are all the way, not at 17th, we're at 18th in this draft. So I don't really know if we're going to find anything super good in this spot other than that low lead defenseman. So that's why it's probably better to go with him over like a random top 6 forward or a top 4 defenseman. So That's likely going to be our play for the first round, but obviously in the second round and all that, we're going to have to try and see if we could find actually some steals that might not be fully scouted. So anyways, with that said, let's take a look at what goes in this year's top 5. So Columbus, what are they going to take at number 1? They select Method, so they get a guy with the last name Method, which makes me think of Mark Method, but left wing playmaker, medium elite, Laurent Method. Looking pretty good. Good offensive awareness. Obviously, some good attributes across the board. Does actually have not that bad of physical attributes, too, despite being a playmaker. So, I don't know if that's because he's a 6'3" guy, but he's got some size to him. Pretty solid player for the Blue Jackets. Detroit at number 2. What are they going to select? Chip Chura. So, there's the guy that we would have probably drafted if we would have not made the playoffs and had a top 5 selection. He was an Austrian defenseman. He looks pretty good. But he is a left defenseman. So there is a lot of left defenders always out there. Right defenders, I feel like, are always more of a premium. So is he good? Yes. Would he have been something I could have utilized? Yes. But would I utilized him super well? Tough to say. He could have been one of those guys that pushed Urquhart into the top 6 pairings instead. But obviously, I don't know if Chip Chura is technically fully something we needed. But I think right defenseman like the lowly that we're going to be getting is going to be very valuable for our team. So anyways, Philadelphia at 3 is going to select Lundin, who is an 80 overall medium elite sniper. Sheldon Lundin. That's an interesting one. He's got an English first name, but actually, no, Lundin is technically... Was Mike Lundin English? I feel like he was, but I feel like he was Swedish too. I'm not too sure, actually, now that I think of it. Because I feel like I remember him playing in, like, juniors and stuff for the United States, but his last name makes me think he's Swedish just because of Mats Sundin and all that. I don't remember if he's Swedish or not. I feel like he's American, but if he is Swedish, that would be kind of weird. But yeah, I don't know. Lundin might have like Swedish and then also American roots or something like that. But anyways, let's see what Boston takes at 4. They are going to select Chorney, who is in a right-wing sniper, so just the same as Lundin, but a little bit lower overall. Dalton Chorney looking pretty good. No real weakness, as of course they could always take face-offs, even when they don't have center as a position. That's one thing that I think they still need to work on is any of these like wingers shouldn't have good face-off stats out of the draft. Like they could have maybe like a 70 or something, but to have like a guy like Chorney, who doesn't have center as a position, have 77s as face-offs, it's kind of a bit weird, in my opinion. And finally, Tampa at 5. What are they going to select? They take Dag, the defenseman. Hugo Dag, DFD, right defenseman. Looks pretty good. All right, so that's this year's top 5. I guess we'll find out if any of these guys end up becoming anything crazy in the next few years or in this season alone already, because most of them should be NHL bound unless they're scratched. Also, we do need to turn injuries probably on for next season still, so I want your guys' opinion still if we should turn those on or not. That way, anybody that is scratched, like if Dag was scratched in Tampa, he would actually be playing some games probably too if there was injuries. So let me know about that. Anyways, let's simulate to pick 18 and see what went before our selection. So Von Arx was top 6, Pispin top 4. Pretty much what you'd expect to see go before our selections, so we'll just skim through this a little bit here. There you go. All right, so the lowly defenseman, obviously Newberry would be a decent selection as well, but we don't really need another 65 overall medium 6 or 67 overall medium 6. There is Henricius, who could be an elite player, but honestly, we have no idea for sure. I think he's just going to be a normal top 6 forward. And then there is also Lundberg, obviously. Actually, I can't even draft Henricius and Lundberg. Never mind, I just realized they're Finland and Swedish. Sorry, my brain is all scrambled because of the fact that I'm getting over this cold. So yeah, we can't even draft those guys. We can only draft like guys like Repik and all that, which aren't really worth it. Stamkos could be a low elite player. There's a very well chance he could be. But he also could be a top 6 forward too. So he's one that maybe I would have taken a risk on. But obviously going for the for sure thing in the low elite defenseman, we got to go for this. So he's Austrian as well, so he might be just as good as Chip Chura. Maybe he used to play with Chip Chura on the Austrian junior team or something like that, we could say. But he was playing in Switzerland as well. I think Chip Chura was playing at Switzerland too, if I'm not mistaken. So both these guys are pretty good players. Maybe that's why Richardson's really good too. But let's take him with our 18th overall selection, even though he is projected 2nd round. So welcome aboard to Kurt Richardson. He is a 64 overall, low elite two-way defenseman. So that's pretty good. I think playing him in the AHL next year is something I'm probably going to do, just because we need more defensemen down there. So yeah, I think he's going to probably get his entry-level contract right away. He has some pretty good attributes, no X factors, but I think he could be a very, very solid steal for this team. Because even if he's a lowly that only grows to an 82, that's still pretty useful. So I'll definitely take that. That's a nice pick for our team. All right, let's simulate to our next pick at 51, and then we'll go back. Actually, let's go to the next round, and we'll simulate back through the second round, our first round a bit, just to see what went after our selection here. Because obviously there were some other guys we could have taken. So yeah, Newbury C was only a 65 medium 6, so he's pretty basic. He is a good player, but I preferred obviously the defenseman at that stage. Who else was it that I could have drafted? I couldn't draft Henricius, even though he looked intriguing. He's only a medium 6 anyways. Most of these guys are medium 6 and medium top 4s. There's Repik, who we could have taken. He's a 64. Kyanik, I think, was an option. 62, medium 9. Stamkos was only a medium 9, so it's good we didn't take him. And Pettinger, I don't remember if he was an option or not, but it doesn't seem like there was a lot else after our selections. So anyways, let's simulate to our next pick at 51 and see what we could snag up here. Honestly, like I said, not too sure what to take in these rounds, but we'll probably look to find somebody decent here. So there is Oliver Krupp, who is a medium top 6 DFD. I think it's it. Yeah, DFD. And, I mean, he's okay. He's probably going to be a good overall. He might be one of these guys that could pan out for a top 6 pairing option, kind of like Andrews or whatever, and Albatozer for that matter. There's also Appleby as a right-wing playmaker, medium 9 only, but I have seen some good second-round medium 9s, like some of the guys in our bottom 6 were medium 9s that were drafted second round, so Appleby's kind of interesting to me, even though I feel like we do need defensive prospects maybe a bit more. There is a low 6 in Sushi. Oh yeah, I forgot about this guy, 3 years out, listed as a gem. I don't know if I would prefer a low 6 gem or a medium 9 right now. There's a lot of medium 9 supposed to go in this round, potentially, and beyond that too. Low 4, we actually can't even take that guy because, you know, he's a gem. He's not from a country we could take. Yeah, I think we're going to go for the 17-year-old medium 9 over the low top 6. Just because I feel like he could end up becoming something like Bradford, because I think Bradford was a second rounder. So yeah, let's go for Appleby with this selection. Boom. So Appleby is a 62 overall medium top 9. He might not get his ELC right away, but I think he is going to be a pretty good player, at least at the AHL level. He does have good passing and shooting. If he develops to being something like Bradford, that'd be great, because if Bradford eventually leaves or something like that, we have a replacement for him. So I'll take that. Let's simulate to our next pick at 84. I don't even know if I'm going to go back through all these rounds, just because honestly this draft class isn't super deep, so kind of not worth taking a look at some of those guys. All right, so there is Burkov, who is a medium top 6D, 4 years out. There is also Sekera as a medium 9, who is 4 years out. I think there was a guy that was projected to be 2 years out, if I remember right, but I think he was a low 6, if I remember right. Let's see. Let's actually just go by pinned again here. Wasn't there a low 6 in this class that I was looking at that was very close to? Oh, yeah, it was Fernandez. Yeah, Marcos Fernandez is 2 years out at 19. He's an intriguing one as well. I'd probably take him in round 5. So yeah, him round 5, Kuda round 6. So we don't need to worry about that. We're on round 3, so we have to probably make a decision with some of these guys, I guess, up here. Which medium 9 is better? Sekera? Actually, we could go for the goalie just because he's starter. I feel like just grabbing another goalie might be okay. He did have a 934 save percentage. I know this is generated stats, but still, he was really good in Switzerland. Should I take a goalie here? I know some people are like, we don't really need to draft more goalies. I say that we don't really need to draft more goalies, but would we prefer a medium 9 player over one? That guy's 5 years out. Sekera was how many years out? 4 years. And then Burkov is only just a medium 6D. I think I would prefer a goaltender that might grow, so we'll take this guy. He could be a future backup option too if we end up running out of those elite players. So yeah, let's just take another option that has higher potential, like Koch. He's only 54, so he'll be unsigned for probably a couple years, but maybe that's a good thing just to have a contingency plan in case something goes bad with the goaltenders. So I will, yeah, definitely take that. Obviously, probably not necessarily something we fully need, but it's just in case something goes wrong. So, Anyways, let's simulate to pick 117, see if we could draft the next Master Chief. I don't know why I said that, just because I saw 117, but let's see. What do we got pinned for this round? What round are we in? Round 4 now? Yeah, round 4. All right, so we're getting closer to drafting those other guys, but not yet. Who is supposed to go in this spot? A fringe starter goalie, high fringe starter. He is 19 years old. This guy's probably going to be interesting a bit, but I'm not going to select him because we already grabbed a goalie. This guy's also a goalie that could be elite, so maybe I shouldn't have gone for the starter because I feel like this guy probably is an elite goalie, but I don't really want more elite goalies. I just want options that could be backups that are cheaper and more budget friendly. This guy's probably an elite goalie too. Or do I go for a low 6? I feel like there's just always a bunch of good goalie options now in these later rounds. There is a medium 4 here. I guess, yeah, we'll probably go for Richard Polak. Because he has medium 4 potentially. He's an OFD. He might not really grow that well because he is a medium 4 that's going really late in the draft, but he's got good potential, and we might as well take him. So Polak is going to join the team. So welcome aboard to him. Yeah, he's only a 48, which is very, very low, but he could develop and become something for us. So let's hope that he's one of these random guys that actually does develop. If he doesn't, maybe he becomes something at best for the AHL team. All right, so let's simulate to our pick in round 5. And then I guess we have to go for the one guy at this point, right? Because round 7, we don't really know who we're going to take yet. But I think we're going to go for Fernandez here, even though he's 19 years old. The fact that he has a 2-year ETA is very intriguing to me. I don't really know what his potential is. It looks like a low 6. Could be a low top 9 that's 2 years out, but he is listed as a gem. So we are going to take him here, and then we'll take Kuda next round. And then round 7's completely up in the air. So Marcos Fernandez, how good are you being 2 years out? Low elite. Oh my goodness. Let's go. Ooh, finally. That is not what I was expecting. I thought it was going to be a low 6 or something below. Fernandez is fantastic, and he's AHL bound for sure right away. He could even play on our 4th line if we really wanted to, but we do have a lot of center playmakers on this roster, but that's an absolute substantial steal. He is obviously an overager being 19, but he's a 70 overall lowly, which is really, really good. So that is absolutely awesome. He'll probably be playing second line minutes in the AHL behind Rankin, but that is really, really nice. I love low-elite potential players, and when they're a high overall like this, that's really nice. Because he could have been even just a 65, 64 overall, but since he was 2 years out, that really intrigued me. And yeah, Marcos Fernandez could end up becoming a really good player for us. So we do have some options in case Benak ever leaves this team in the next number of years after his contract ends, which is great to see. Who knows who we'd lose in that center depth if we lose Roger Green or something like that, but I really like having center options like that. So shout out to Fernandez. How good is his faceoffs actually? Only a 60. Not the best on faceoffs, so we could utilize him more as a right winger. But we could always try and get him to grow in his faceoff area. He has 85 passing already out of the draft as well. So this guy should produce at a good level as long as his offensive awareness gets up there and all that. So that's a fantastic pick. Fantastic. All right, let's simulate to pick 183. We'll grab that other low elite since now we're going to have 3 low elites in this draft class, which is awesome. Like I said, I have no idea what we're getting with our last pick, but obviously here we are going to be taking the left wing, right wing. He is 18 years old, so he will be a lower overall. He's probably going to be like a 50-something, but he is listed as a gem, and he should be a pretty good player. So Milan Kuda from Karlovy Vary. Let's take you. 50 overall. Yeah, I expected him to be around that point. Yeah, so he's definitely a work in progress. Of course, his jersey number has to be that number again. I'm not even going to say it because every time we play this game, we either draft at that spot. Dave Luzinski wears that number. This guy wears this number. Of course, it has to happen like that. But obviously, I'm going to grab a screenshot or something like that just to show in the Discord because that's actually kind of funny, but still. So that's a good pickup, though. Hopefully, Kuda develops, because I think this is one of our best draft classes so far, just based on the amount of low leads we've grabbed. Because we've grabbed a couple low leads, we've grabbed a medium 4, we've grabbed a medium starter, and a medium top 9 that could develop. So I think this is definitely our best class, for sure. At least in terms of depth in the later rounds. But let's get to our last selection of this draft. At this point, like I said, I don't really know what to grab. So hopefully there's something intriguing here. There is some pin players still that we could take a chance on. Most of them aren't even scouted at all, though. That's the only thing. So I don't know if we want to take a chance on him. Let's see what else we got here. Sturm is supposed to get drafted around this point. He is a German, so he is eligible to us. No NHL ETA is kind of a little bit worrisome, though. There's also Yager as a medium bottom 6 grinder. He is 20 years old, though, so that's very good. Allison was only 18. Yeah, it probably has to be somebody like Allison or Locke. Locke is a low bottom 6, so... But he does have a 4-year ETA. He is 20 years old as well. Allison was only 18. I think we're going to go probably for Allison at this point. There is some also Slovaks like Ivanons and Panic. And there's also a Slovene, or not a Slovene, a friggin' Serbian. Goddamn. This guy would be kind of interesting. I think we're just going to go for the bottom 6. I think Allison's a guaranteed medium bottom 6. He could be a low bottom 6 as well. But since he's 18, he's probably the best one we could take here. So let's just take him and bam. Medium bottom 6. I'll take it. That's not terrible potential, but he's probably going to be the guy that doesn't develop on this draft class. But I still think it's a good option because you have seen some bottom 6s get to like 72 or so, and they could help out the AHL team. So I'll take that. That's probably our strongest draft, like I said, to date, which is great to see. So, yeah, we get Richardson, low elite defenseman. Absolutely awesome pick. He'll be playing in the AHL for sure next season. We grab that medium 9. Obviously, he could develop. We're going to leave him unsigned probably. Coach is a medium starter. We don't really need goalies, but it is just, like I said, like a contingency plan in case any of the goalies don't pan out. And then maybe he could become a backup for this team. And that way we have more of a budget-friendly backup goalie rather than running 2 elite goalies that might ask for a shit ton. We get Polak as a medium 4. Maybe he pans out. And we get Fernandez and Kuda as both low elites, which is awesome. Very good picks there. And then Allison as a medium bottom 6. Not bad. So there is our draft class. I would say, like I said, one of our best ones in terms of depth. Is it one of our strongest in terms of our first round pick? Probably not, because we've drafted obviously really high up before. But the draft in the middle of the first round and grab all those players, I think is pretty good. So I will definitely take that. All right, let's advance to the re-sign stage. My voice is already feeling a little bit raspy because I'm not used to talking this much on my sore throat. But let's get our scouts re-signed. They did a really good job this year in terms of finding us some late steals. So we got to get them all signed back up here, which is going to be nice and easy now because at least we know that we could go over here and see which ones actually need their extensions. What else we got here? Borodziak. We'll bring you back. And there's also Newbury. This guy probably wanted us to draft that Newbury in the first round because it was probably his son or something like that. All right, so those are dealt with. What about coaches? No coaches to deal with. We just got re-sign stage stuff to deal with. All right, re-sign stage. How much money we got? 45.28. We are going to go first to our UFAs here. And we probably will have to let go of some of these filler type of players in the AHL, to be honest. Somebody like Koshrain is how old? 25 at this point. Damn. Yeah, I think we might have to let go of some of the filler players on the forward side of things. So I think we're going to let go of Koshrain. And, we honestly might have to let go of Kearns and Sazongoth as well. Sazongoth was playing on the NHL team, though, this last season, wasn't he? Yeah, he was. We could replace Sazongoff with Fernandez next season if we want, but Fernandez, I don't know if we want to rush him yet. I am going to give a 1-year deal to Kristof Sazongoff just because he could be still a 4th-line option for us, so we'll sign him back up. Nichols is also kind of like a 4th-line depth option almost. We're going to give him a 1-year deal. I don't want to give these AHL kind of guys multiple years because if I give them multiple years, that might be taken away from us signing one of our unsigned prospects. So, and we'll keep Emerson even though he might get scratched soon just because he's been a really good force down there in the minors. Kearns is kind of a good leader down there, but I don't know if we really need him. Bednar is not a bad option down there on defense, but he could get scratched soon. But I think we shouldn't be letting go of any AHL defenders just because we don't really have that depth fully in our system yet, right? So let's see what we could do here. Ooh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get him for a 1-year deal for Bednar. Let's try it. If he walks to free agency, it's not the worst case scenario, but I'll try that. Retzer is actually growing decently as a low top 9. He was a 6th round pick. Does have some okay shooting and offensive skills. I would probably sign him and let these two guys walk, even Wallin as a low top 6. Wallin was a third round pick, but he's not really developing that much. So I think I'm going to let go of a couple of these guys. Let's let go of these dudes. We could always bring them back in a future year if they're ready for the AHL at that point. But I think I'll sign Retzer because he actually looks like he's growing. Kearns I'm going to leave for a second here because I do need to go to the unsigned prospects. Because I think we're going to already sign Fernandez for sure for the AHL because he's pretty good. We will probably be signing Richardson as well just to get that defensive core beefed up a little bit. And everybody else here I think should stay unsigned, even Kuda, just because he's only a 50. That way he can maybe jump up to a 64 after a year and be AHL bound then. So I think everybody else here will be unsigned. And in goaltending, we could sign Simic already if we really want to. There's also Kavapil and DeFazio. And Amboul. Amboul's not really that great, but he has high potential. DeFazio, like I said, I don't really know what he's going to continue to grow like. I think some people will get pissed off if I let him go, but I think I'd prefer maybe to do, for our goaltendings, to have Forster jumped up to a high starter. What the heck? Was not expecting that. That might be based on statistical growth, though, but Forster for the starter. Cantor could be the NHL backup if we let go of Kavapil. And then we could run Gotch and Simic in the AHL instead of DeFazio and such like that. I don't really want to let go of Kavapil, though. That's the thing. I could use him as a third string goalie because we are going to be turning injuries back on probably, right? Yeah, I think I'll sign Kavapil as our backup. Cantor could be that third goalie in the NHL. And then I think we're going to run Gotch and Simic in the AHL. And I think I'm going to let go of DeFazio, which I know some people are probably not going to like, but I don't think this guy's really going to develop much more. And he wants a no movement clause in his second year. What the hell is this? Or is that just glitched out? Because it's on a 2-way contract. That's really weird. That might be glitched out. But yeah, I think I will probably let DeFazio go. And then I'll sign. I could leave Simic unsigned for a year too if I really want. That's the thing. But do I think he's aged already yet? 68 overall, first rounder, drafted third. He is pretty good all around. I think he needs some playing time in the AHL. I think he does. So I think we're going to let go of DeFazio. Some people probably won't like this, but like I said, I'd prefer to hold on to those backups for the time being. And then DeFazio, if he comes back to this franchise at some point in time as a free agent, that might not be bad. But right now, I just don't think he's going to really become much. Like, he could become a backup, but we have a lot of other options as well. So let's let him go. And then we will sign Kavapil still as our NHL backup for a year. He wants a 2-way contract, which is very nice, but I don't really want to give him multiple years yet. But I might have to. Unless I give him a 1-way deal. Yeah, let's give him a 1-way deal. Sure, that works. Let's do that. That should work. And then we'll go back to our unsigned and signed Simic for the AHL. Because I think he's ready for that job. And then if we look at our other goalie options, Amboul could get an entry-level contract. That's another player I could have probably... maybe I shouldn't have signed Simic then. There is so many goalies. I don't know if I'm allowed to have 6 goalies under contract or not. If I go to RFAs or unsigned, Koch doesn't need his thing for a while. So I could sign Amboul and then maybe let him go if he doesn't develop. We're going to have 3 goalies in the NHL and AHL, I think, next season. So let's get Amboul signed up as well. So that's going to be our goaltending all dealt with. Except for that RFAs, we have McElhinney and all these guys to sign up here. McElhinney wants a 4-year deal. Doesn't really have much interest in an 8-year deal, but he is an important player to this franchise. How much is he going to want for an 8-year deal? We actually might be able to get him on a pretty solid contract. Yeah, I think he's kind of worth almost paying $7 million too. Or right around $7 million. Let's get this to $7 million on the dot. No, a little bit more than 7. There we go, 7.25. Yeah, 7.25 for 8 years. Honestly, I think that's good. He's technically one of our best wingers. So yeah, let's give him a contract like that. Even though it is a bit of an expensive one, I just want to lock him up. Bradford, who, like I said, is a decent player. We could just give him a short-term contract right now. He is a good player, but do I want to lock him up long-term? What is it you want for 8 years? 3.6. So that's not bad. We could maybe give him like a 5-year deal if you would be interested in entertaining something like that. I do want to make sure that we have our depth on our team as much as possible, right? So, okay, yeah, we're going to be able to get him on a 5-year deal, no problem, I think. That would walk him to free agency, though, which is a bit risky, but it is a good trial run to see what he actually can do. So, yeah, I think a 5-year deal at, just under 3 with a no movement clause will work. So let's do that. So there we go for Bradford. Nakamura is also really solid. I wouldn't mind giving him a multi-year deal. He doesn't have a lot of organizational interest. So just because he doesn't have a lot of organizational interest, we're going to just give him a trial run contract for a year, see if he continues to develop in the right ways. And if he does, obviously, then we could give him a big-term contract at the end of that. But I'm not going to rush for him just because I think he needs to get that organizational interest higher before we commit. Barrett also wants a one-way deal. He would be a UFA at the end of 2 years, but he does have the organizational interest, so we will give him... Let's just give him what he's asking for. We need to make sure we're cap compliant too, so let's do that. Helmer could be a bottom 6 option for us this season. Let's give him what he's asking for. Same goes with Maltby, just because we need those depth players. Miller is kind of a weird one, but we'll give him a 2-year deal as well. Saric is already 24. I'll give you a 1-year deal in the AHL if you want a 1-year deal. Yeah, you could probably take that. Pearson, 22 years old, doesn't have a lot of potential, but we might as well... Actually, he has some okay potential, but I don't know if he'll develop. We'll just give him what he's asking for. And then Lees, I'll give you a 1-year deal as well for the AHL. Perfect. So that's all the RFAs dealt with. And hopefully all those guys sign. The only one we are not too sure on yet is Kearns. But we could always hold on to him just in case. So let's do a 1-year deal for Kearns. Just because he's been here for such a while. Like, he could be like a leader down there. So we'll sign him back up as well. And that should be all we need to re-sign. We might need still a cap whale, I'm not too sure, but we'll see once these guys sign up here if we still do or not. But I think we have a good idea of what we want to have as depth options and what we don't. So, at least in terms of the goalies, Bednar rejected, which is kind of what I was anticipating because he didn't really want the max 2-way deal. We were trying to offer him $36 million in cap space. We have a lot of cap space to us. Bednar I could still utilize in the AHL. He wants a 2-way deal as the only problem. Or 2-year 2-way deal, I should say. That's the only problem. You know what? Let's just do it just in case. Just in case. But I do think we need a cap whale at least. So we'll get one signed up for our roster for sure. Because everybody else is signed up. We do have a lot of goalies under contract now, except for the guy that we just drafted, basically. But like I said, I think our goaltending plan is basically Forster, Kvapil. Cantor could be that option that swaps with Kvapil if Kvapil obviously gets hurt. Or Forster gets hurt for that matter. And then we have our goalies in the AHL, which would be Gotch and Simic. And Bull would probably end up getting scratched unless we don't really care about Gotch too much at this point. Or we could scratch Cantor in the AHL and basically run Simic and Bull. Gotch could be that third string goalie in the NHL. So we have options. I'll leave that up to you guys because obviously it's a lot of goalies, but I do plan to let go of Kvapil probably relatively soon because some of these medium elite goalies should be good enough to take that backup job within a year or less. So there's all that. So everything is nice and dealt with. We have a lot of players on our team signed up long term, which is good. Hopefully this team's good enough to make it back to the playoffs again this coming season. So let's simulate to free agency and see if we still need a cap whale, which I think we need at least one. It's kind of crazy we still need one with how good this roster is shaping up. But obviously we need to make sure that players' salaries don't get adjusted. So let's see. Are we cap compliant? I don't think so, right? Because it said 30-something million in cap space. So, yeah, we still need a cap whale. We're not making trades because, obviously, we're not making trades ever in the series. But let's go to free agents and go to the bottom of the list here. Wow, Purrington's an RFA? Oh, he's a UFA. Holy crap. The New York Islanders could not afford to bring back their franchise defenseman. They drafted first overall. Wow. I was not expecting to see that in the slightest. I have seen that Purrington hasn't been that crazy as a franchise defenseman, like he's a 20-point defenseman. But my God, the New York Islanders had to let him go at the age of 25. Just because of the fact they have like Matthew Schaefer still there. I think they have Cale Makar still too. So that's absolutely insane. He doesn't even want that much money. He wants 13.5. I wish I was allowed to sign free agents in this, but obviously we could only draft in this year's, but that's absolutely absurd. If only I would have drafted Purrington all those years ago, I think we would have had him locked up for like an 8-year deal at this point. But shout out to the Islanders for letting him go. Yeah, they probably don't have a lot of cap space. Anyways, let's sort by overall here and get ourselves a cap whale that doesn't want an ELC, which is probably going to be quite a while before we find one. But we want one with hopefully no potential too, because I don't really want them to develop. I just want somebody that fills up this roster a little bit more. Let's see. Anybody want a one-way contract? Because all these guys want two-ways right now. Like, that's why they're all on a 3-year deal. Let's see. There's got to be one person here that's a low overall that wants... It's probably in the 60-plus range, right? Oh, my goodness. Oh, there's one. I finally found one. Cameron. 59 overall. We will sign you up as... Oh, Weston Cameron is your name. Okay, I don't even know what your name was. But we'll give you $25 million to just be a bench option in the AHL. There you go. All right, so now we are cap compliant, which is good. We don't need any coaches, I don't think. I'll double check on that. And then I think we're ready to almost simulate up to next season. We could do some off-season focuses too. We should probably do that just to be safe. But yeah, we have our coaching staff still. That was great last year. We have all our scouts back, which is great. Wait, is this Corey Conacher? No, Claire Conacher. That would have been funny if it was Corey Conacher, I was going to say. All right, so we have our scouts, we have all our coaches. So yeah, let's do a little bit of off-season focus on some people that are important in the minors, I think mostly. Because the NHL team, I don't really know if any of these guys really need certain areas to work on. But I do know there's a couple guys that need to work on certain things the most. Maybe I'd still work on somebody like Nakamura, who is trying to get better and better every year. A lot of the guys are pretty much are what they are at this point. Like the elite players at least. But I do want some people to get their offensive awareness a little bit better, of course. Some people to work on their face-off stats, especially if they're a centerman. So that's probably some of the plan here. Okay, let's go to the AHL here too, just to see if there's anybody here I want to work on. Ullman's a good defenseman. He probably continues to develop. He's actually one of our best defensive prospects, but the guys I wanted to work on... The goalies, I mean, I think will still grow because we have good goaltending coaches down there. Fernandez, since we just drafted him, he doesn't have good faceoffs. We need to definitely work on his faceoffs if possible. So hopefully he could get that up there. Obviously, it was only a 60, so it's going to take a lot of work, but we could utilize him, like I said, more as a right winger. Rankin is definitely another guy to put some focus into, just because obviously he was a really high up pick. So I want him to get better and better as much as possible because he could be NHL bound in a few years again. Simic, obviously, being a 3rd overall goaltender, questionably by some people. Let's just get you better in any type of area. It doesn't really matter. Just grow. Just grow. Because obviously we want you to be the best goalie we've ever had, potentially. Richardson, who we just drafted, obviously we'll give a little bit of focus to him. But I think the AHL team should be good this year as well, if I'm not mistaken. Let's go with... Let's go with offensive awareness, I guess, technically. Even though he is a two-way defenseman, let's just get that offensive awareness to keep on getting better, so that way he could actually be a useful two-way defenseman. And I think... Ambula as well probably should get some focus, considering he's also an elite goalie and he's a low overall. Because he hasn't grown too much. Let's just do reflexes for him, sure. But yeah, I think a couple of these guys just needed attention. We could give attention to pretty much everybody if we really wanted to, but I'm not going to do that. So that's all set up and ready to go. I think we are ready to sim up to next season. So let's go ahead and do that. I am very curious on where Purrington's going to sign in the offseason. Like I said, if we would have drafted that guy, I would have already had him probably locked up on an 8-year deal. No problem. But the New York Islanders gave him, I think, a bridge contract, and then they didn't re-sign him this offseason. So They must be very strapped for cap, or else they probably should have brought him back. But I know they did have a lot of good defensemen on that team. Like I said, Schaefer, McCarr. I'm pretty sure there was Hammerlick, who was a guy we could have drafted early in this franchise mode as well. So the Islanders made some bad problems with their salary cap and had to lose a franchise D-man at 25 years old. Pretty crazy. All right, so let's get our lineup set up here, see what we're working with. Obviously, see who needs to get set down and who needs to get called up if there's anybody. But this should be a pretty good season ahead. We should make it back to the playoffs, in my opinion. All right, so if we are going to turn injuries back on, we need a third-string goaltender. Gotch jumped to a 76, so Gotch is actually going to be our backup, I think, this season, based on that. And Kavapa will be sitting on the bench. I think that's a good option to do. I wasn't too sure on the goalie option, but if you guys think this is the best case, I think it's not bad. Then Simic could be the starter in the AHL. Ambuhl could be the backup, and Cantor will be sitting on the bench. So basically, we have an option to go to in case any of these goaltenders get injured in the NHL or the AHL. And Kavapa would be the depth option there, Cantor in the AHL. I think that's good. So it's good to have a little bit of depth to our goaltending. At least Forster is really good, and it's good to see Gotch jumped up to a 76. He is 23, so I think he could end up becoming something still, but it's really tough to say. And then obviously Simic could be really good within 1 year, maybe or two. So that's goaltending. Defensively, we have Paco, Antonio, Lee, Urquhart, Albatozer, Andrews. Maltby as a 7th defenseman isn't a bad option if we do have injuries on. Because the AHL would be Emerson, Ullman, Bednar, Rakunik, Richardson, and Dimitra. 3 righties, 3 lefties. They don't have a depth defenseman in the AHL. And that's why I kind of wanted to sign... actually, we did sign Bednar. I was going to say I thought I'd let him go, but... Yeah, I think that's actually not a bad option. That's probably what we'd run with if we do have injuries on the season, is using Maltby as a depth defenseman. He does have potential to become something more, but he's 23 already, and I'd probably rather use him as a depth option over Emerson. Tough to say. But yeah, I think that's good. And that way, guys like Ullman are getting a lot of playing time down there in the minors. So there's that. From a forward perspective, Hiromis, McElhinney, Bradford, Nakamura, and Helmer as a depth option is not bad. Not bad at all either. He's 22 as a medium 9. Could still develop and become something really good. He's got great passing. So maybe he'd be in the lineup. I'm not too sure. But we have no right wingers in the AHL. So that's a little bit weird. From a left wing perspective, Klinga, Laws, Nichols, and Locke. It'd probably be one of these guys actually scratched, I guess. And then Camper, Kearns, Sarich, Skilly. All right. I will keep depth options up here just in case. And then Mullins dropped to a 77? Jeez. Is that just on morale? Oh, man. What's his contract like? 2.5 for 77 might be a smidge high, but I still like how he produces, so I'm not going to worry too much. Barrett's still a depth forward, technically. Green, Benak. Our team's looking actually really solid. And there's not really anybody I don't think I would call up. Actually, we do need a 4th liner, technically, at center. Because technically, Mullen plays the left wing. So I would have to send down probably... Who's worse defensively? Locke. I guess I'd have to send down Locke to the AHL again. Just because Mullen would be playing on the left wing side of things. And then we'd have to call up a center instead in that spot, which could be Sazongoth. It could be Miller. Christoph Sazongoth has a 79 faceoffs as a two-way forward. Miller is a two-way forward as well with 79 faceoffs. Honestly, I might be willing to try Miller this year instead because he's younger. So let's call up Miller as that 4th line center. And then let's go best lines and set this up here. I think that's probably what we'd run with. So let's see what we got here. Okay, this team is actually, looking pretty nice. I probably have to run Nakamura and Bradford on the same line, I guess, now at this point, which isn't a bad option. So we'd probably be running the lines like this. Let's go with Mullen on the right wing just because he's a sniper. So I think he was a sniper, right? Yeah, okay. So yeah, our lineup would probably look something like this, at least on forward. So it'd be Hiromis, Benak, and Klinga. Law, Green, and McElhinney's looking actually pretty nice as a second liner. Everybody's listed as a second line forward except for Law. 3rd line has Bradford, Barrett, and Nakamura. And a 4th line of Mullen, Miller, and Nichols. I like that. I actually do. And I think this team could make it back to the playoffs with this type of forward group, for sure. Then from a defensive standpoint, Lee and Paco, not Antonio. Last year I did Paco and Antonio, didn't I? Yeah, I think because Antonio didn't work with Urquhart, right? Yeah, that's the case. So we'd have to go with Antonio and Paco. Lee and Urquhart doesn't work well. Why is Maltby in the lineup? Why is Maltby in the lineup over Albatozer? Oh, yeah, this is actually what we ran. Yeah, this is what we ran for sure. Who is better offensively out of the two of these guys? It's Lee. Yeah, we run this defensive core again. There is a -1 still on that top 6 pairing, but I think it's better to run with that. Albatozer listed as a top 4, so I need to make sure he's getting power play time or else he's going to start to lose morale. He is only signed for the 1 year, but obviously we need to make sure he's happy still, I think. Goalies look like that, but we are going to be taking Kvapil out for Gotch just based on potential. And scratches, like our extra players, Helmer, probably not a great idea to fully scratch him, but he's an okay depth option, I'd say. And then Maltby's okay to be there, and Kvapil's okay to be there. So then we have like a depth player on each position. We could reach into the AHL, obviously, if there's more than one injury this season. But Klinga's, what is it? Yeah, Unstoppable has changed to Elite. I'm pretty sure it was blue last season. Now it's into the orange, which means he is really good at Unstoppable. And then Wheels and Truculence are still specialists, but he's definitely the best player on the team in terms of X Factors. Yeah, we are actually getting a lot of X Factors on the D core too. So this is looking pretty damn nice. I think this team could make it easily back to the playoffs. We have a very strong defensive core. Our goaltending, I think, is getting better. And then our forward group is actually getting good too. So I think this is probably what we'd run. We could move Roger Green back to the top line center as well if we want to. But it's up to you guys if you'd rather Benak on the second one or the top. Benak works better with these guys because of the X Factors, I think. So kind of tough to say on that front. All right, power play. Let's double check this. Benak, Klinga, and Hiromis. Paco, McElhaney is fine for the first unit. Green, Law, Bradford, Lee, Nakamura. That means technically no power play time for Albatozer, but I might be okay with that. I don't really know if there's anybody that should be on the power play that isn't. So if you guys see anybody that's missing here, let me know, other than Albatozer. Because maybe I'll just give Albatozer a bit more 4-on-4 time or something like that. Or just not really worry about his ice time. Because I think he honestly could be gone within a year or so. He is on the third line PK at least. So that might actually help with things a bit. Yeah, we'll probably keep the extra team lines the same for now, unless you guys think they should change. Aside from that, let's just make sure nobody important is scratched here. And Bull needs to be in over Cantor just because we want to make sure Simic is getting his starts in the minors. Blatter is a low 6. He could be playing. He's the only one that could be, I guess. But let's make sure our top prospects are higher in the lineup. So we want Rankin at the first line center spot. We want Fernandez as that second line spot. Technically, Fernandez could play as that first line right winger because his faceoffs are only a 61, so they did get better. But since we have so many centers down there, we might as well put the top guys on the same line. We'll also go Camper top line. Nope, never mind. We aren't going to do that because of that minus. So Zongoth is pretty low down on the depth chart now, basically. So we'll move him to a fourth line role. Bieksa, only low top 9. Jeez. Kearns is technically way down on the depth chart now too. So let's rework this a little bit down here on the bottom 6. Get Blatter in the lineup. That's not looking good chemistry-wise. That's looking a little bit better. Let's see. We'll keep it, I guess. I honestly don't even know. And then defensively, we want to make sure our top prospects are higher in the lineup as well. So we'll keep Emerson on the top pairing because he's really good. But we'll go something probably along these lines. And then goaltending-wise, like I said, is like that. That looks good. That looks good. So yeah, Rankin, Fernandez, these guys are the major forward prospects. And then defensively, it's Ullman, it's Richardson, who are the major prospects. Simic's a major goalie prospect, same with Ambul. So we have a lot of good talent down there. In the AHL, they should do well. Our NHL team should do well. I think this could be a really fun year for this team. All right, so that's all nice and set up. Final few things we got to take a look at is our, I guess, our contract situation. Who's going to be a free agent at the end of the year? Any big players, out of curiosity? Nakamura is an RFA. Albatozer is the big UFA. Like I said, Albatozer is a guy we could let go of if we really want to get like Maltby in as a full-time defenseman at some point, but at least we aren't running into any big contracts being up for renewal just yet. Because obviously the first player that's going to be a major free agent, that's a big name player, is Dave Antonio. Which honestly, we have some replacements, so Dave Antonio might be gone at that end point if he's too expensive. So I don't really mind that. He's the first big UFA. Then it's Klinga, of course, the year afterwards. And Klinga obviously is going to cost us a lot. He's going to be probably like 14 plus million, my guess. So I really want to make sure we have enough for him. So who knows if Dave Antonio's time is running out with this team or not. We can't really afford to lose people right now. So hopefully we get some good growth in the system. So Dave could basically be let go of and not hurt us too much. All right, so that's all nice and dealt with. Final thing we need to take a look at is what this upcoming draft class is looking like, and then that'll be it for this episode, because there's not really... Is there any new faces on this team, first and foremost? I don't think there is. We'll double check this as well. And just because... Actually, I guess there is, because there's Gotch. I don't think we've ever looked at Gotch because he's never been in the NHL. So let's look at a couple new faces on this team. Just because I need somebody probably for the thumbnail anyways. But let's see what Gotch is looking like, because I don't think I've seen him. Looks like he's got the wild man beard, but does it grow out is the question. It does, okay. So there's Gotch, the German goaltender. So we'll probably use him in the thumbnail unless there is something more intriguing there. So I'll go back on that. Anybody else new on this team? There might be some other options here. Let's see. Maltby's new. Maltby was in the AHL the last number of years. Hasn't played an NHL game yet. So I guess there is a couple new faces. So we'll put some faces to those guys. So that way we at least know what they look like when they're out there on the ice potentially. So this is Maltby. He looks like he has just a mustache, which is interesting. How long does it grow? Doesn't grow. All right. That kind of sucks. But there's Maltby. Number 66, Jerry Maltby. What a name. All right, what about forward side of things? Anybody new here? Helmer's new, technically as a depth option. I think we're definitely going to be turning on injuries this season, unless you guys have a valid argument why not to. But I think obviously having options like Helmer, I want him to be able to play some games if somebody gets hurt. So that's why we're using these guys as depth options, because they're probably our best. This is what Helmer looks like. I think he's German as well, if I'm not mistaken, but... his beard doesn't grow out as well, so he just looks like this. He does have some nice hair, though. Good flow to him. So, number 87, Mr. Bjorn Helmer. Bjorn. Maybe he's actually from, like, Norway or something. I don't know. Is he German or... Let's see. Yeah, he is German. With a name like Bjorn, I would think he's not from, but maybe Bjorn is a common name there. Left wing side of things, we've already seen all these guys, including Nichols. And centers, we just haven't seen what Edgar Miller looks like. So he's going to be the last player to take a look at. And then we'll see what this draft class looks like, if there's any good players potentially for us. Obviously, we're going to probably be making the playoffs, in my opinion. So we're probably going to be drafting late. So hopefully there's a good option. Looks like Miller has lamb chops. How big does it grow? It doesn't grow at all either. Damn, that sucks. So he just is a clean-shaven player. It would have been kind of neat if his lamb chops grew to the max or something like that. But there we go. All right, like I said, final thing, the draft class. My voice is already trying to go on me, so I'm not going to spend too much time looking at this, but I do want to look at it. And no players early on, which is good, at least because we're not going to be drafting early on. However, there is a guy with the last name Crane, which makes me think of my Islanders series, so that's kind of neat. But let's take a look at each league here briefly. So start off with the Germans. There is a German projected 14th in bronze, so we'll pin him. There's also Pau as a late first rounder, so there is some later round Germans that we might be able to grab, which is good. We'll pin all the ones actually supposed to get drafted. From Switzerland, there is Aho, Stefan Aho. He is a German as well. We'll pin him. There's actually a decent amount of late first rounders that we could take, like Aho, Mickelson, and Postma are all options as well. So this could end up working out well for us if we have a good season and actually able to take a decent player late in the first round. These guys are not supposed to get drafted. Let's just unpin those because those are not very good. We'll keep those guys though, pin these first 5. Czech Republic. Looks like another first rounder. Yeah, there looks like there is actually a good amount of options here, including a Bosnian defenseman in Eugene Gruel. as a 7th rounder. That's cool. We'll pin all those guys. We'll move to Austria next. Bondra. Peter Bondra. Peter Bondra, and he's Slovak too. That's actually hilarious. All right. Well, Peter Bondra on this team would be pretty dope if he's like the real Peter Bondra. Who knows if he is, but we're definitely pinning him. He's the only one actually supposed to get drafted out of the Ice League. So, yeah, Peter Bondra would be pretty damn awesome. He plays both wings. Not as big as the real Peter Bondra in terms of size, I think, but he still could be a good sniper potentially if he's like the real Peter Bondra. SHL, there is Burgundy as a first rounder. He's from Denmark, so we can't actually take him. Aside from that, nothing else from Sweden. Wow. This guy's not supposed to get drafted, so. What about Finland? Not really looking like much either, except for this Norwegian in Chance McCauley. There's also Tambellini as the goalie. There's a guy named Crosby from Norway. Who knows, maybe Sidney Crosby has kids in Norway. There's Ott, who's supposed to get drafted as well, and that's it. Allsvenskan always generates nothing. Russia, is there any Polish people? Let's see, there is a Polish guy, McInnes. I'll pin him. Any other Polish dudes? The answer is no. What about rest of the world? No rest of the world players still. All right, so that's good. That's good. This draft class is exactly what I really want to see because our team is good at this point. We are going to probably be having a pick Braun onwards. Actually, probably not Braun onwards. It's probably going to be Burgundy onwards, maybe, which means we are going to be able to have a lot of first-round options for us, even if we make the playoffs this year. So I think that's a big major positive, and I'm pretty happy that there's nobody super early on that we really need to set our sights on. So anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of our Europe United Draft to Glory franchise mode. So in next episode, we will simulate the 2035-36 regular season. This team should make it back to the playoffs with the good coaching staff and this good roster we have, as long as everything goes to plan. Obviously, turning injuries back on, if we're doing that, is going to be a little bit scary, obviously, because hopefully none of our major guys go down, or else that could derail our season. But obviously, it's going to be a good challenge for this team to stay healthy and obviously find themselves back in the playoff spot, and maybe being able to find a way to win a round as well, because I think this team could honestly win a playoff series based on how it looks right now. So think down below, and I'll see you guys next time.